Fate, that mischievous puppeteer, delights in drawing hearts together when they least expect it, especially when every instinct urges them to stay apart. It delights in drawing people together in unexpected ways, even when every instinct screams to steer clear. It is often said that the very person you desperately try to avoid might be the one destined to leave an indelible mark on your soul. In the cool early hours of a temperate autumn evening in the small, secluded town of Bellmont, a name that evokes both serenity and mystery, a delicate yet charged encounter unfolded, setting in motion a series of events that neither Serena nor her family could have ever foreseen. Serena, a young woman whose eyes held the quiet resilience of someone accustomed to conflict, found herself caught in the throes of destiny. Earlier that day, her mother had caught sight of a young man departing from their ancestral home, a grand, ivy-draped estate known as Langley Hall. The sight stirred a storm of discontent within her mother, who could not hide her sharp curiosity and disapproval. "Who was that man?" her mother demanded, her tone a mix of indignation and concern as she confronted Serena in the softly lit foyer. Serena, fully aware of the impending barrage of questions, turned away, hoping that silence might defuse the situation. Yet her mother's persistence was unyielding, as if fueled by a lifetime of unspoken expectations and a desire to control every twist in Serena's life. "Answer me, Serena. Who is he? Why must you hide your suitors from me?" her mother pressed, her voice echoing off the polished walls. Serena, her back rigid with defiance, answered in a measured tone that barely masked her inner turmoil. "He is my admirer, mother," she replied, her gaze fixed on the intricate patterns of the wooden floor rather than on the questioning eyes of her mother. The words barely left her lips before her mother's sharp retort sliced through the quiet. "Since when did I ever grant you the liberty to choose your own suitor?" In that charged moment, the conversation escalated. Serena's voice, usually gentle and subdued, now carried the fiery note of a young woman determined to claim her independence. "You speak as if I have no right to choose," she declared, her words laced with both anger and sorrow. "You impose rules upon me. Rules that dictate who I may or may not love, what I may or may not accept, even how I should appear. I am shackled by expectations. I must remain demure and untouched until I wed, yet you expect me to be perpetually alluring, a prized jewel for the man you have already decided upon." Her mother's grip on her hand tightened, a futile attempt to rein in the spiraling conversation. "Serena, listen to me," her mother urged, her tone softening as she tried to reach through the veil of rebellious words. "I only wish to secure a future for you, a future free from the unpredictable hardships of this world. I want you to know that when your time comes to depart this life, you will do so with the peace of mind that comes from knowing your well-being is safeguarded." But Serena could hear only the echo of control in her mother's words. "You speak of protection, yet I feel imprisoned," Serena replied, her voice trembling with both anger and sorrow. "How can I accept a life planned for me when I have not been allowed the chance to shape my own destiny?" As the argument waned, Serena retreated into the sanctuary of her room, leaving her mother standing on the last step of the sweeping marble staircase, watching her daughter's silhouette recede into the shadows. In the quiet that followed, her mother's heart ached with a bittersweet longing. She could only whisper to herself, "Oh, Serena, one day you will understand my choices, even if now you see only chains where I see protection." The weight of her own regrets mingled with the lingering hope that perhaps, in time, her daughter would appreciate the sacrifices made in the name of familial duty. The next morning, the first light of dawn revealed a different scene within Langley Hall. Serena awoke early, her limbs stretching with a reluctance born of restless sleep. She descended the grand staircase to the dining hall, where the aroma of freshly brewed coffee beckoned her into the day. To her surprise, she found her mother seated at the long table, her eyes cast downward, as if the entire heavens had decided to mirror her sorrow. Approaching her with tentative compassion, Serena offered a gentle apology for the harsh words exchanged the previous night. "Mother, I am truly sorry for raising my voice," she murmured, tenderly caressing her mother's graying hair. Her mother's response was laced with weary understanding. "It is all right, my child," she said softly, her voice carrying both resignation and hope. "I understand your desire to be heard. Yet, know that every decision I make is born out of love, a desire to ensure that you never suffer the indignities of life. As the two exchanged quiet words, the bond between them was momentarily mended by the simple act of mutual care, even though an undercurrent of unresolved tension lingered like an unspoken promise of future strife. Before long, the calm was disrupted by the arrival of guests. At Langley Hall's ornate front door, a stately carriage pulled up, and soon Julian's parents, distinguished figures of the influential Langley family, stepped into the foyer. Serena's heart fluttered with a mixture of apprehension and resignation. Secretly, she had hoped to catch a glimpse of Julian, the young man who was to become her betrothed. Yet as she scanned the elegant gathering, his presence eluded her. Meanwhile, her mother busied herself with polite introductions and meticulous hospitality. "Vivienne, pray tell, what brings you to our humble abode this morning?" she inquired, gesturing toward a seat with the grace of someone accustomed to managing high society. Vivienne's eyes, however, soon fell upon Serena, and a curious question was raised. "Is this truly your daughter, Evelyn?" she asked softly, a note of admiration coloring her tone. "Indeed she is," Evelyn replied with pride, unable to hide the sparkle in her eyes as she spoke of Serena's grace and beauty. Yet as the conversation progressed, an unexpected twist surfaced. "It appears that Julian has already returned home, and more startlingly, he has taken another's hand in marriage," Evelyn revealed, her voice trembling with the gravity of the revelation. Serena's heart skipped a beat, relief mingling with shock. The news meant that the life planned for her by the relentless march of fate was suddenly, irrevocably altered. In a hushed yet charged conversation, Vivienne explained that since Julian was no longer available for marriage, the solution proposed by the families was to have his twin Damien wed Serena instead. The revelation struck her like a tidal wave. "Damien? Julian's twin?" she murmured, her mind reeling at the prospect of being bound to another man. Yet the room buzzed with a sense of finality as plans were swiftly set into motion. "We must prepare for the wedding at once," Evelyn declared, her tone both pragmatic and detached, as the two mothers engaged in a discussion that left little room for dissent. Later that day, as twilight descended upon Langley Hall, the house was abuzz with preparations for the upcoming nuptials. In a quiet corner of the estate, Serena's mother was greeted by Damien, who had arrived with the casual familiarity of someone well acquainted with the family's affairs. "How did the meeting go, Mother?" he inquired, his tone a mix of curiosity and trepidation. His mother, whose eyes were clouded with worry and determination, replied, "It went well, but there is a matter of grave importance we must address. Your elder brother Julian has already taken his leave, and with him our prior arrangements have dissolved. I now insist that you step forward and accept this union with the woman chosen for him." Damien's face contorted with disbelief. "Mother, I cannot. My heart still belongs to the one I once loved. I am not ready to be wed to a stranger simply to mend a broken plan." His firm words reverberated through the quiet corridors, a bold rejection of fate's cruel machinations. Amidst the family's heated discussions and calculated decisions, Serena found herself increasingly desperate to escape the chains that bound her. Each passing moment in Langley Hall, with its opulent halls and stifling expectations, only deepened her sense of isolation. That very night, as the clock neared 10 p.m., and the house fell silent with the hush of sleep, Serena seized her chance for liberation. With the stealth of a fugitive and a heart pounding with both fear and exhilaration, she slipped out of the estate. The meticulously guarded grounds offered little resistance to her determined escape. The world beyond promised a glimpse of freedom, however fleeting. She drove along the winding roads of the countryside until she reached a bustling urban enclave known as Westvale, a city where anonymity and adventure intertwined. At a chic nightclub nestled in a vibrant quarter of Westvale, Serena found refuge. The neon lights, pulsating with a rhythmic allure, beckoned her to forget, if only for a night, the oppressive weight of her familial obligation. Taking a seat at the bar, she ordered a glass of the finest wine, her voice betraying the novelty of her actions. "May I have your best vintage, please?" she requested, her tone both hesitant and determined. The bartender, accustomed to the eclectic tastes of Westvale's night owls, served her a glass with a courteous smile. As she took her first tentative sip, a tall, striking man approached her with an air of confidence and warmth. "Hello, gorgeous," he greeted, his voice laced with both charm and curiosity. Serena, momentarily taken aback, managed a soft reply, "Hi," her eyes flickering, with a mixture of caution and intrigue. The man, undeterred by her reserved demeanor, insisted on joining her for another glass of wine. "May I share in your company tonight?" he asked, his invitation both earnest and laced with a hint of mischief. In that moment, Serena, buoyed by the heady mix of newfound freedom and the courage that comes from defiance, agreed without hesitation. The conversation flowed as naturally as the wine poured into their glasses, and soon Serena felt the edges of her worries blur into a tipsy haze. Yet as the night deepened, so did her unease. The handsome stranger's concern for her well-being surfaced when he noticed her slightly unsteady demeanor. "Miss, you seem a bit inebriated. Perhaps you should refrain from further indulgence," he chided gently, as he carefully moved her glass out of her reach. But Serena, caught in the paradox of seeking liberation yet clinging to her defiant independence, insisted, "No, please, I would like to enjoy my drink." Despite her protest, his protective instincts prevailed. "I cannot in good conscience allow you to continue on this perilous path," he stated, his tone firm yet caring. Realizing that her own strength was waning, Serena reluctantly agreed to let him escort her to safety. "Take my car keys," she said in a moment of vulnerability, the act symbolizing both her surrender and a glimmer of trust. Once inside the car, as she rested her head against the plush seat, she found herself torn between the fleeting comfort of freedom and the suffocating ties of expectation. "I don't want to go home," she admitted softly, her voice trembling with the weight of unspoken fears. "Take me somewhere else," she implored, her words echoing in the quiet night. The man, whose name she later learned was Damien, frowned in concern as he attempted to decipher her cryptic request. "Where would you like to go if not to your home?" he asked gently. "I wish to be alone, to think," Serena responded, her voice barely a whisper against the hum of the car engine. Yet as the conversation unfolded, it became clear that her rebellion was not solely against the impending marriage, but against the very idea of a life dictated by others. Damien's steady presence and his genuine care provided a brief respite from the chaos that had become her existence. "Every woman deserves to be treated with kindness, and I worry for you when I see you hurt," he confessed, his eyes locking onto hers with unwavering sincerity. Serena's heart, still reeling from the revelations of the day, softened slightly at his words. "Why do you care so much about a stranger?" she asked, her tone reflective and tinged with quiet hope. "Because," Damien replied, "sometimes the kindness of a stranger is the very light that guides us out of darkness." In that moment, as the car cruised along the deserted roads of Westvale, Serena allowed herself to believe that perhaps there was a way out of the life that had been imposed upon her. A possibility that love and genuine understanding might offer a future free from the shackles of predetermined fate. Thus, the night carried on, with a bittersweet mixture of liberation and lingering regret. Each mile traversed was a step away from a life filled with unyielding expectations and a step toward a future that promised autonomy and self-discovery. Yet deep within her, the battle between the comforting chains of familiarity and the daunting allure of freedom continued to wage war. It was a struggle that would shape not only the course of that fateful night in Westvale, but also the destiny that awaited her beyond the horizon. Remember, fate's intricate designs often lead us through unexpected paths, where the choices we make in moments of vulnerability become the stepping stones to our true selves. And while Serena's journey was fraught with uncertainty and pain, it was also illuminated by the possibility of redemption, a chance to reclaim her own narrative and to define her future on her own terms. In the silent aftermath of midnight's turbulent hours, Serena's heart pounded with a mix of desperation and hope. "Please," she implored, her voice trembling as if on the verge of shattering, "take me somewhere else, anywhere but my home." Her plea resonated with a desperate intensity, echoing through the cool night air, as if searching for salvation in the darkness. Damien, the handsome stranger whose eyes still held the lingering sorrow of past regrets, hesitated only a moment before his reply came softly. "All right, just for tonight." With that promise, he steered the car away from the chaotic memories of her past life, toward a future yet uncertain. The journey led them through the winding streets of a quiet suburb, far removed from the stifling confines of her family's mansion. Upon arriving at his own elegant condo, a modern retreat in the heart of the bustling district of Newfield, Serena couldn't help but be struck by the meticulous order and pristine condition of the place. Every surface gleamed under the soft luminescence of carefully placed ambient lights, as though the space itself was a sanctuary of calm and order amidst her inner turmoil. "You can stay here for the night," Damien said gently as he opened the door, his tone warm and assuring. "I must return to my family's home early tomorrow, but please, make yourself at home." His offer, devoid of any expectations beyond mere kindness, stirred a deep admiration within Serena. She marveled at the rarity of a man who treated her, a vulnerable woman adrift in her own emotional storm, with such untainted respect, even when her judgment was clouded by the haze of alcohol. As the night deepened, the conversation between them turned reflective, imbued with a quiet melancholy that belied their brief acquaintance. Serena, feeling the tender stirrings of both gratitude and yearning, confided, "You know, I'm completely intoxicated right now. I could let you do anything, yet you chose to respect me." Her voice, though soft, carried an undeniable sincerity, as if she were unburdening a long-held secret. "That is admirable," Damien replied, his eyes revealing a trace of pride mingled with sorrow. "I have always held a deep respect for women. In my previous long-term relationship, I maintained a respectful distance, never crossing boundaries, even in moments of passion. There is honor in restraint, even when the temptation is overwhelming." His words, delivered with a quiet dignity, painted a picture of a man who had learned the value of integrity and honor through the trials of love and loss. Serena listened intently, her gaze fixed on him as she sensed an inescapable sadness buried beneath the surface of his calm exterior. There was a wistfulness in his eyes, a subtle mourning for a love that had once defined him, yet remained unattainable now. As if trying to fill the void left by that lost relationship, she found herself thinking, "What a naive girl I must appear for surrendering to this moment so easily. Yet, if he had loved me, I would have embraced him wholeheartedly, giving him my fidelity and all that I possessed." The thought, bittersweet and laden with regret, left a lingering trace in the dimly lit room. Her reverie was abruptly interrupted as the atmosphere shifted. "Do you still love her?" Serena asked, unable to hold back her curiosity any longer. The question, simple yet piercing, hung in the air between them. "I do," Damien admitted, with a pained honesty. "She was my girlfriend for many years, and a part of me still clings to that love." His confession, delivered with an unguarded sincerity, left Serena momentarily speechless. A silence filled with both compassion and the stark reality of their intertwined vulnerability. Gathering her courage once more, Serena rose from the bed and stepped toward him with a newfound resolve. Placing her palm gently against his chest, she whispered, "I have no freedom left, Damien. My mother insists that I marry a man I do not love, a man chosen for me, not by me." The warmth of his skin beneath her touch contrasted with the icy despair that had long gripped her heart. In that moment, with their bodies nearly in contact, Serena's desperation surged forth as she declared, "I beg of you, take away this burden by taking my virginity, so that I might finally taste the freedom I so desperately crave." Her words, raw and unfiltered, revealed a deep-seated need for autonomy, a desire to reclaim control over her own destiny, even if only for a single, transformative night. Damien, taken aback by the intensity of her request, raised his arms as if to shield himself from the overwhelming force of her plea. He reminded her gently that the sanctuary he had provided for the night was offered out of compassion, not a prelude to exploitation. "Can we share a night of passion?" she purred seductively, her hand daringly tracing the line of his lower lip. His careful, measured response, taking her hand and lowering it with deliberate tenderness, spoke volumes of his internal conflict. "You know why I offered you a place to rest tonight," he murmured, his voice laced with regret and resolve. "It is because I believe that in your current state, women often act without thinking. I did not wish to take advantage of you." His words, firm and unyielding, underscored a conviction that had been honed by past experiences. A vow to honor the sanctity of a woman's trust, regardless of circumstance. Frustration and longing mingled in Serena's eyes as she countered softly, "But you must understand, losing my virginity to someone as honorable as you would at least give meaning to a part of me that has been shrouded in darkness. Even if I do not love you, this act would free me from the chains that bind me." Her voice, though tinged with vulnerability, carried a resolute determination, a fervent wish to reclaim what little autonomy she had left. Damien's gaze lingered on her, searching for any sign of hesitation or regret. All he found was a deep, unyielding resolve, reminiscent of a caged bird longing to soar beyond the confines of its prison. After a prolonged silence that seemed to stretch into eternity, Damien clenched his fists as if summoning the courage to step beyond the boundaries of his own reservations. He had never before engaged in a one-night tryst, and now, faced with this unexpected proposal, he sensed that this encounter might become one of the most unforgettable chapters in his life. "I promise," he whispered, "that after tonight, you will owe me nothing." His assurance, quiet yet earnest, hung in the air as a solemn pact forged in the depths of shared vulnerability. "Are you truly certain about this?" Serena pressed, her eyes searching his for the reassurance she craved. "More certain than anything else in this world," she insisted, her voice imbued with both a trace of nervousness and a strength born of desperation. With that, Damien motioned for her to sit beside him on the edge of the bed, drawing her into his quiet confidence. "Take off your clothes," he commanded softly, a request that was met with a momentary flash of uncertainty in her eyes. "You seem hesitant. Are you sure?" he asked, his tone gentle yet insistent. "I am sure," she replied, though a trace of nervousness danced in her tone. "I just want the lights to be dim. It will help me feel less exposed." Understanding her need for comfort, Damien nodded and slowly reached for the dimmer switch, casting the room into a warm, shadowed glow that softened the stark outlines of their bodies. Serena stood before him, the silence between them pregnant with anticipation and the quiet hum of vulnerability. In the soft half-light, Serena felt a shiver of anticipation as she sensed Damien's approach. His embrace from behind was tender yet insistent, his lips trailing a gentle kiss along the delicate curve of her neck. "It's your first time," he murmured, his breath warm against her skin as he whispered, "Let's make this night unforgettable. Let's pretend, just for tonight, that we are united in love, that you can call me your husband." His words, meant to soothe and empower, wrapped around her like a comforting promise. As he brushed her hair aside, his fingers caressed her bare skin with the tenderness of a man who understood both desire and the sanctity of a moment meant to heal. Their bodies moved together in a slow, deliberate dance, a merging of two souls in search of fleeting freedom. Every touch, every caress was laden with meaning. Damien's lips, exploring the contours of her neck and shoulders, kindled sensations within Serena that had long been dormant. His hands, reverent and exploratory, mapped the delicate landscape of her form with an artistry born of both experience and genuine affection. In those shared moments, the world outside faded into insignificance, replaced by the intensity of their connection and the hope of a future where each might claim their own liberation. As the night progressed, passion intertwined with a bittersweet tenderness. Their bodies, once estranged from genuine intimacy, found solace in each other's embrace. Every whispered word and every gentle touch was a rebellion against a world that had long dictated Serena's fate. For a few precious hours, she felt the weight of her impending arranged marriage lift from her shoulders, replaced by a profound, if transient, sense of empowerment. The memory of that night, of a man who treated her with kindness and honor when the world expected otherwise, would etch itself deeply within her soul. When the first light of dawn crept softly through the curtains, Serena awoke with a serene clarity that belied the tumult of the night. Damien still lay asleep, his presence a comforting reminder of the honesty they had shared. Not wishing to disturb the fragile peace of that quiet moment, she rose gently and departed without a word. The early morning air was cool and crisp as she made her way back to the mansion she had long known as home, once a sanctuary, now a silent warden of her freedom. Moments later, as she approached the gate of her family estate, now renamed Langley Hall, to distance itself from old memories, the door swung open abruptly. Her mother's stern voice cut through the silence. "Where have you been? I've been searching for you all night and calling without end." The tension in her mother's tone was palpable, a mixture of anger, worry, and an undercurrent of betrayal that struck Serena like a blow. Swallowing hard, Serena mustered the courage to speak her truth. "I went clubbing, and I had a one-night stand," she confessed, each word a declaration of both defiance and despair. The shock in her mother's eyes was instantaneous and profound, as if the revelation itself was too immense to comprehend. "A one-night stand? Are you out of your mind? Her mother retorted sharply. Don't you understand that your body is meant only for the man I choose for you, a man you have never loved? The words, laden with tradition and control, resonated with an old-world severity that left Serena reeling. In a voice quivering with both indignation and heartbreak, Serena countered, "You have always kept me confined, preserving me for a future I never desired. Now that I am no longer a virgin, there is no justification for forcing me into a loveless marriage." Her words, though delivered with fierce determination, were met with the unyielding resolve of a mother steeped in her own convictions. "You will still marry Damien, whether you like it or not," her mother declared firmly. "We have already arranged everything, and you will meet him next month." "Mom, please, just shut up," Serena shouted, her voice breaking as she stormed up the stairs to her room. In that heated moment, she felt as though the walls of Langley Hall were closing in on her, trapping her in a fate that offered no escape. Days slipped by with an oppressive monotony, her life reduced to a cycle of relentless confinement, a gilded prison without any semblance of freedom. Elsewhere, far removed from the turmoil of Serena's world, Damien sat alone in his office, haunted by memories of a night he could scarcely recall. It had been 2 long weeks since his own impulsive encounter, a one-night stand with a mysterious woman whose name he had never learned. Yet her face, her beauty, and the raw emotions of that night haunted him relentlessly. "Why do you keep appearing in my thoughts?" he pondered in solitude, unable to shake the lingering image of her from his mind. "What is it about you that makes it so hard to forget?" His internal musings were abruptly interrupted by the sharp call of his secretary, snapping him back to the demands of the present. "Sir," she called, breaking through his reverie, "your mother is on the line. She needs you immediately." Damien's heart sank as he realized that his respite was over. He was soon to face yet another confrontation about the forced union looming over him. Desperation mingled with resignation as he scrambled from his chair, his mind racing with thoughts of escape, of fleeing from the relentless pressure imposed by his family's traditions. However, escape was but an illusion as his mother soon appeared at the doorway, her presence commanding and unyielding. "Mom," he murmured, forcing a smile that couldn't mask his inner turmoil. His mother's eyes, however, were already brimming with determination as she gestured for him to sit. "Where were you running off to?" she inquired sternly. "Come, sit down. We need to talk about your wedding arrangements." Despite his protests, Damien knew there was no escaping the conversation about the union that had been so meticulously planned. "This is about the wedding again, isn't it?" he murmured, his voice heavy with resignation. "Yes," his mother replied, her tone leaving little room for dissent. "Everything is set. The church, the venue, and even the bride is ready. You must understand, you are now 30 years old. I fear that if you continue to neglect the idea of settling down, you might never remember the importance of family. Look at your brother Julian. His wife Celeste is about to give birth next month, and meanwhile you—" Her voice trailed off as the mention of Celeste caused Damien's face to fall, betraying the deep-seated pain that still lingered from his past love. Gently, his mother took his hand, offering him what she hoped was both consolation and a path forward. "I know it is hard to forget Celeste," she said softly, "but it is time for you to move on, to build a future that is not haunted by the past." Damien's eyes met hers, filled with a mixture of sorrow and reluctant acceptance. "Maybe you're right, Mom," he sighed. "I will meet this woman, but I'm not yet agreeing to marry her immediately." His declaration, though cautious, marked a small step toward accepting the inevitable future laid out before him. "Really, son?" his mother asked, her voice hopeful yet insistent. "Yes, Mum. I promise I will meet her." A smile of satisfaction briefly softened his mother's stern features, as if the prospect of a new beginning, however forced, might finally bring a semblance of peace to their troubled lives. And so, as the day waned and the intricate plans for the impending wedding began to take shape once more, each of the lives entangled in this relentless web of destiny continued to struggle against the forces that sought to dictate their futures. Serena, still reeling from the dual blow of her night of fleeting freedom and her mother's unyielding demands, faced yet another day within the confining walls of Langley Hall. Meanwhile, Damien, caught between the ghost of a past love and the heavy expectations of his family, braced himself for the inevitable confrontation with a future that felt both uncertain and predetermined. Thus, the tapestry of their intertwined fates grew ever more complex, each thread woven with the pain of sacrifice and the longing for true freedom. A freedom that seemed just out of reach, no matter how fiercely they struggled against it. In the lingering twilight of fate's capricious design, everything seemed to swirl together in an intricate dance of coincidence and destiny. The night had been a mosaic of vulnerability, passion, and unexpected twists, a tapestry woven with the threads of love, regret, and the desperate yearning for freedom. As the clock inched past midnight, Serena's heart still pounded with the echoes of her whispered pleas. In that fragile moment she had begged, "Please take me somewhere else, anywhere but my house," her voice trembling with a mix of terror and hope. Damien, the handsome stranger whose eyes shimmered with both sorrow and kindness, had hesitated only briefly before promising her refuge for the night. "All right, just for tonight," he had replied, steering them away from the oppressive confines of her old life and toward a future that remained cloaked in uncertainty. The journey had taken them far from the stifling atmosphere of her childhood mansion, past the familiar and into a new realm where every street corner in the district of Lavenbrook whispered secrets of possibility. Upon arriving at Damien's condo, a modern sanctuary nestled in the upscale neighborhood of Eastridge, Serena had been struck by the pristine order that greeted her. Every surface gleamed under the soft glow of carefully arranged lighting. The space, a deliberate ode to minimalism and calm. "You can stay here for the night," Damien had said, with an ease that belied the complexity of their connection. "I must return to my family's home tomorrow, so please, make yourself comfortable." His words, gentle and unassuming, carried the weight of genuine concern and respect, stirring in Serena an admiration that bordered on disbelief. How could a man so refined and considerate treat a vulnerable soul with such honor, especially when the rules of society would have dictated otherwise? As midnight approached, the calm within the condo gave way to tension, an air thick with confessions neither of them planned. Serena, emboldened by a heady mix of alcohol and newfound freedom, revealed the deep scars of her existence. "You know," she murmured, her tone soft yet resolute, "I'm utterly intoxicated right now. I could let you do anything, but you've chosen not to take advantage of me." Her words, though whispered, reverberated with a truth that stung like a confession made under moonlight. Damien's response was equally measured. "That is admirable," he said, his voice a mix of pride and lingering regret. "I have always harbored a deep respect for women. During my long-term relationship, I maintained a distance even when passion beckoned, because I believed that no moment of intimacy should be taken for granted." His confession revealed a man tormented by past mistakes, yet determined to honor the delicate dignity of those around him. Beneath the flickering shadows of the condo's warm ambience, Serena's eyes shimmered with unspoken questions as she sensed a profound melancholy behind Damien's measured tone. There was an ineffable sadness in his gaze, a remnant of a lost love, perhaps, or the weight of unfulfilled dreams. In a moment of raw vulnerability, Serena reached out, pressing her palm against his chest, as if to anchor herself in the reality of his presence. "I have no freedom," she declared, her voice cracking with both anguish and defiance. "My mother insists that I marry a man I do not love, a man chosen not by my heart, but by tradition." Her plea, charged with the fervor of a captive soul, hung in the air like an invocation for liberation. "I beg you, take my virginity and free me from these chains," she whispered, her words trembling with desperate urgency. Damien's reaction was instantaneous yet gentle, his arms rising in a silent plea for caution. "You must understand," he murmured softly. "I offered you shelter tonight because I believe that in moments of vulnerability, one must never be exploited. I have known restraint, even when my heart yearned to cross forbidden boundaries." His tone was firm, yet imbued with a deep-seated empathy. As their eyes locked in a silent communion of despair and hope, Serena could not help but marvel at his integrity. "I wish to make this night meaningful," she continued, her voice gaining strength with each syllable. "Losing my virginity to a man of your honor would at least give my sacrifice meaning. Even if I do not love you, this act would liberate me from the oppressive shackles of my destiny." A long, heavy silence settled over them as Damien weighed the gravity of her request. It was a moment that transcended the physical. It was a covenant of mutual understanding forged in the crucible of shared pain and longing. Finally, with a solemn nod, he promised, I assure you after tonight you will owe me nothing." His vow, spoken with the quiet dignity of a man who had faced many heartbreaks, was a balm to Serena's tormented soul. In the soft, muted light of that carefully arranged room they began an intimate dance, a delicate interplay of vulnerability and tentative desire. Under the gentle caress of dimmed lights, Serena's inhibitions slowly gave way to a turbulent blend of passion and uncertainty. Damien's touch was both commanding and tender, a juxtaposition that sent shivers down her spine. He drew her close, murmuring words of promise as his lips traced a delicate path along her neck. "It is your first time," he whispered, his voice resonating with both tenderness and a hint of solemnity. "Let us make this night unforgettable. Let us, for a brief moment, become each other's solace, a fleeting escape from the burdens we bear." His words, tender and inviting, seemed to weave a protective cocoon around them, shielding them from the harsh judgments of the outside world. Their union was a quiet rebellion against a fate that had long dictated the contours of their lives. Every touch, every whispered word, was imbued with the defiant hope of reclaiming one's destiny. As the night unfolded, passion and tenderness intertwined, and the boundaries between obligation and desire blurred into insignificance. In that intimate sphere, Serena's cries of longing and Damien's murmured reassurances created a symphony of liberation. A night in which the scars of the past were momentarily forgotten in the throes of newfound intimacy. When the first blush of dawn crept through the window, Serena awoke with a lingering sense of bittersweet liberation. Damien lay asleep, his peaceful expression a testament to the sincerity of their shared encounter. Not wishing to disturb his slumber, she quietly gathered her things and stepped out into the cool light of morning. With a heart still heavy from the weight of her choices, she made her way back to the mansion she had long known as home, a place that now loomed before her like a gilded prison, its ornate walls echoing with the stifling demands of tradition. The mansion, now rechristened as Langley Manor in a desperate bid to reinvent its oppressive legacy, greeted her with an air of cold inevitability. As she approached the towering gate, the door swung open abruptly and her mother's voice burst forth, laden with a mix of anger, disappointment, and maternal concern. "Where have you been? I've been searching for you all night, calling incessantly." Her words were sharp, echoing the severity of a mother's scorn. Serena's throat constricted as she mustered the courage to speak. "I went out clubbing," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper, "and I had a one-night stand." The words once uttered reverberated with the full weight of her rebellion. Her mother's eyes widened in disbelief, a mixture of shock and indignation contorting her features. "A one-night stand?" she spat, her voice rising. "Don't you understand that your body is meant solely for the man I have chosen for you, for the man you are destined to marry?" The traditional admonition, steeped in the values of a bygone era, clashed violently with Serena's desperate cry for autonomy. "Mother," Serena retorted, her voice trembling with both fury and sorrow, "you have always kept me locked away, preserving me for a union I never desired. Now that I am no longer a virgin, there is no justification left for this forced marriage." Her words, laden with the anguish of years spent in captivity, were met with unyielding resolve. "You will still marry Damien," her mother declared with finality, "and you will meet him next month." The ultimatum fell like a gavel, sealing Serena's fate once more. In the days that followed, Serena's world remained a labyrinth of relentless constraints, a gilded prison where freedom was a distant, almost mythical concept. Meanwhile, in a contrasting realm of opulence and calculated ambition, Damien prepared to embark on the next chapter of his predetermined life. His mother, ever the orchestrator of familial alliances, had already arranged the details of a union that would bind him to Serena in the eyes of society. Yet beneath the veneer of dutiful acceptance, Damien's mind was a tumult of conflicting emotions, a haunting memory of a past encounter that refused to fade. A week later, the day arrived for Serena to meet Damien in person. Dreading every second of the impending encounter, she sat silently in the back seat of her mother's sleek vehicle, which glided along the winding roads of Westvale, a town known for its austere elegance and hidden secrets. Her mother's voice, filled with imperious commands, rang in her ears. "Serena, once we arrive at their mansion, you must present yourself properly, smile, behave well, do not let Damien see any trace of discontent." With a heavy heart and resigned silence, Serena gazed out the window, wishing fervently for an escape that seemed as distant as a fading dream. Before long, they reached a mansion that dwarfed Langley Manor in its grandeur, a sprawling estate that belonged to the affluent Vivian family. The opulence of the place was unmistakable. Every corner radiated wealth and impeccable taste. It was here that her future husband Damien was expected to reside, a fact that made her mother's insistence on the match all the more unyielding. "Smile, Serena," her mother commanded once again, as Mrs. Vivian, adorned in glittering jewels and exuding an air of haughty grace, stepped forward to greet them. "Welcome, dear. Your daughter is truly lovely," she cooed, taking Serena's hand in a gesture both charming and calculating. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation and the unspoken promise of new beginnings. As they were led into the lavish foyer, Mrs. Vivian introduced herself with practiced cordiality. "I assure you, you will not regret marrying my son. Damien is a man of impeccable character, incredibly handsome, and destined for greatness. Just imagine the future, children. Beautiful, sexy, loving, and kind. A perfect match for you." Her words, laced with both pride and expectation, were quickly relayed to Evelyn by Mrs. Vivian's enthusiastic counterpart, who hurried off to share the news with her confidant. "Evelyn, I have the most wonderful news," she exclaimed over the phone, excitement saturating every syllable. Within a week, the long-awaited day arrived for Serena to meet Damien. Despite the palpable tension, she found herself forced to endure the journey in the presence of her ever-watchful mother, who had no intention of relinquishing control even for a moment. "Present yourself properly and smile, my dear," her mother reiterated as the car trundled toward the Vivian estate, a place that seemed to promise both salvation and further confinement. With each passing minute, Serena's heart pounded faster, caught between the dread of what lay ahead and a faint rebellious hope that change might finally be within reach. At last they arrived. The grandeur of the estate overwhelmed Serena, a vast, imposing structure that stretched far beyond the confines of her previous life. Stepping out of the car, her mother's voice rang out imperiously, "Smile, Serena," as Mrs. Vivian greeted them with a warmth that belied the underlying machinations of family duty. "Your daughter is truly delightful," she said, taking Serena's hand with a practiced smile that spoke of both kindness and calculated design. Moments later, a voice rang out, "Son, Serena's here." A man emerged from a distance, turning slowly as if drawn by an irresistible force. Their eyes met, and in that frozen moment, time itself seemed to shudder. Serena's blood ran cold as the recognition hit her like a shock. "You're Serena, and you are Mrs. Vivian's son. How can it be that you and Damien are one and the same?" she stammered in disbelief, her voice trembling as if she had seen a ghost. Mrs. Vivian, noticing the confusion and shock in their expressions, stepped between them. "Have you two met before?" she inquired gently, glancing from one to the other. Damien's reply was immediate and filled with a surprising candor. "I have indeed, somewhere, and I must confess, I want everything finalized because I wish to marry you as soon as possible," he declared, his words laced with an earnestness that delighted his mother. As the initial shock began to ebb away, the conversation meandered into unexpected revelations. In the lush garden of the Vivian estate, Damien and Serena found themselves alone, the tension palpable as they searched for words to bridge the chasm between their past and their inevitable future. "It's strange, isn't it?" Damien mused quietly, his tone tinged with irony. "Who would have thought that the man your mother arranged for you, the very man you despised, would turn out to be none other than me? And not only that, but I was the one who first shared that fateful night with you." Serena, mortified by the vivid recollection, pleaded, "Please, do not say it again." "Yet," Damien continued resolutely, "regardless of your protests, fate has bound us together. Our mothers have decided our union, and now there is no escaping it. I will take responsibility for our past, even if I maintain that you owe me nothing." His words were met with a mixture of resigned acceptance and tentative hope, as they began to negotiate the terms of their future together. Before long, the arrangements for their wedding were finalized, and in a series of quiet ceremonies and hushed family meetings, the union was sealed. In the days that followed, Damien and Serena moved into the vast mansion that had been gifted to them, a symbol of both their shared destiny and the sacrifices demanded by their families. On their wedding night, Serena stood before a mirror in the spacious boudoir, Freshly showered and trembling with anticipation, she looked at her reflection, seeking the courage to embrace the role of wife. A role that felt both foreign and inevitable. Damien, waiting in the bed adorned with silken linens, had already prepared himself for their first night as husband and wife. When Serena finally opened the door, her legs weak with a mixture of fear and excitement, she was met by his gaze, a look that oscillated between desire and a lingering sadness, as if haunted by the remnants of a love that once was. "Why are you just standing there, looking pale?" he asked, setting aside the book he had been reading and drawing her into the intimate space of their shared night. Unable to articulate the tumult of emotions swirling within her, Serena mumbled incoherently, her fingers clenching the fabric of her robe until her knuckles turned white. Damien, sensing her inner conflict, teased her gently, "Let me see your nightie, please. Show me how beautiful you are tonight." The playful challenge was met with flushed embarrassment, yet beneath that vulnerability lay a desperate hope for intimacy and understanding. Summoning every ounce of courage, Serena slowly removed her robe, exposing just enough of her delicate neckline to kindle a spark of desire in Damien's eyes. But just as the tension reached its peak, he paused, his voice soft yet firm. "Damien," she whispered in confusion, "give me a reason why we should proceed." His reply was simple, yet heavy with meaning. "Because we are married, newly united. Newlyweds are meant to celebrate their union, to embark on a honeymoon that is both a duty and a cherished beginning." With that, Damien gently pulled the robe back over her shoulders, wrapping it around her in a gesture that spoke of both tenderness and restraint. "Listen, Serena," he murmured, his fingers delicately stroking her cheek. "If we are ever to share an intimacy again, I want it to be driven by love, not mere obligation. I need you to love me, to become the partner I can cherish." Serena's heart swelled with conflicting emotions, a fierce longing to be loved, tempered by the cold reality of a union imposed upon her by forces beyond her control. In the ensuing days, life within the vast mansion took on the sterile quality of an arranged partnership. Damien, though kind and respectful, maintained a distant demeanor that left Serena feeling more like a roommate than a wife. His eyes, often drifting to memories of a past love, Celeste, his former flame, betrayed a reluctance to fully embrace their union. At breakfast, they barely exchanged words, their silence echoing the unspoken sorrow of two souls bound together by duty rather than desire. Then, one morning as they sat at the breakfast table in the grand dining hall of the mansion, Damien broke the silence. "Serena, I'm going over to my twin brother Julian's place," he said casually. "Do you want to come with me?" His tone was tentative, as if testing the waters of their fragile connection. Serena, though surprised by the invitation, agreed quietly. She suspected that perhaps he wished to use her presence as a shield from the painful memories of Celeste, the ex-girlfriend whose lingering influence still haunted him. They drove together to Julian's estate, a stylish abode nestled in the exclusive district of Brookhaven, where Serena's nerves mounted at the thought of facing Celeste. As they arrived, a helper beckoned them inside, announcing, "Sir, please come in. They are waiting for you by the pool." Damien led the way, and from a short distance, Serena noticed a man who was an uncanny mirror image of Damien, Julian, his identical twin. Their similarities were startling. The same height, build, and even the same mellow tone of voice made it nearly impossible to distinguish one from the other. Amidst this confusing symmetry, Serena's eyes were drawn to a graceful woman cradling a baby, Celeste. Radiant as a goddess, with a figure that belied the recent trials of childbirth, Celeste exuded an aura of effortless beauty that made Serena feel painfully inadequate. As the meeting unfolded, Damien sensed Serena's discomfort. Gently, he took her hand and brushed a stray hair from her face, his concern evident in his soft, reassuring tone. "What's wrong? Why are you shaking?" he asked quietly. And though Serena tried to brush off her trembling, the vulnerability in her eyes was unmistakable. In that moment, amidst the sprawling gardens and the reflective surface of the pool, the complexities of love, duty, and longing coalesced into a silent promise of change. Over the following days, as the reality of their union settled in, Damien and Serena navigated the awkward terrain of a marriage born not of love, but of obligation. Their interactions were tinged with tentative attempts at connection, a shared glance here, a hesitant smile there. each moment a fragile step toward bridging the gap between duty and desire. At times, as they sat together in quiet solitude, Serena's heart ached with the desperate need to be loved, to replace the ghost of Celeste with the warmth of Damien's affection. "Damien," she would whisper in the hushed stillness of the night, her fingers tracing the lines of his face, "I want you to love me. I want to be the one you cherish as your partner." Yet his responses were often tempered by the lingering shadows of his past, leaving her to wonder if true love could ever flourish in the barren soil of an arranged marriage. As the days turned into weeks, the inevitable wedding celebration approached, and with it, a fragile hope that perhaps fate had more in store than mere resignation. The mansion, the carefully orchestrated ceremonies, and even the opulent gifts that adorned their new home all bore silent testimony to a future that was as much a prison as it was a promise. Yet, in the depths of that gilded confinement, Serena clung to the belief that change was possible, that one day the man who had once been a stranger in the night might learn to love her as his own. In the hushed interlude between parting and reuniting, Damien's eyes shimmered with a secret understanding as he leaned in to plant a tender kiss upon Serena's lips. A kiss that carried more questions than answers. "I know what you're thinking," he murmured, his voice low and laden with an unspoken promise. "I saw how you looked at Celeste, but truly, there's nothing in this world that can compare to you." His words, though soft, resonated deeply within Serena's uncertain heart, stirring emotions she had long buried beneath layers of duty and regret. Damien's gentle reassurance was abruptly juxtaposed with the reality of his responsibilities. "Relax," he said, drawing back, only to add, "I must attend to Julian now, so please, stay here with Celeste for a while." His tone was both pragmatic and warm, yet it left Serena with a swirl of conflicting emotions. As she watched him turn away, 1,000 thoughts cascaded through her mind. Was that kiss meant solely for her, a genuine expression of affection, or was it simply an act to convince Celeste that his heart had finally moved on? Could it be that she was nothing more than a convenient substitute, a mere prop in a game orchestrated by fate? These questions circled her thoughts as she sat silently, the remnants of his kiss lingering like a bittersweet echo on her lip. The atmosphere shifted as Celeste, with her characteristic grace and empathy, interjected softly. "Serena, right?" she asked, her tone gentle yet probing. "Oh yes, Serena," she replied with a tender smile that barely masked the concern in her eyes. "You don't look so good." The simplicity of Celeste's words belied a depth of understanding that left Serena momentarily disarmed. "Are you all right?" Celeste inquired, her voice laced with genuine care. In that instant, Serena's vulnerability spilled forth in a confession tinted with sadness. "I don't feel nearly as radiant as you do, Celeste. And now I see clearly why Damien seems so distant, so cold." The admission escaped her lips as an inadvertent echo of self-doubt, a truth she had long denied, yet could no longer ignore. Inside, a bitter thought flickered across Serena's mind, a momentary, unbidden reflection. "Because you're impossible to surpass," she thought, her inner voice harsh and unrelenting. Realizing that her private musings had betrayed her, she quickly attempted to retract her words. "I'm sorry, Celeste," she stammered, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "Please, forget what I just said." But Celeste, ever the embodiment of composure, offered a calm invitation instead. "You seem to have something more on your mind, Serena," she said kindly, urging her friend to share the weight of her thoughts without judgment. Moved by Celeste's serene confidence, Serena's voice trembled as she confessed. "How do you do it, Celeste?" Serena asked. "You walk into a room and he lights up. I want Damien to look at me like that, just once." Celeste smiled kindly. "I don't shine because I'm better, Serena. I shine because I'm where I belong. Find where you belong, not in his past, not in my shadow, but in his present." Her words, laced with sorrow and yearning, hung in the quiet air as Celeste regarded her with a smile that was both sad and sympathetic. "You're overthinking everything, Serena," Celeste replied gently. "I am who I am, and I belong with Julian, whom I love deeply. You, on the other hand, must learn that you are uniquely you." Damien's kiss, his tender kiss, was not meant to replace anyone else. It was his way of acknowledging you, his wife. Serena's heart ached at the thought. "But it feels as though I'm just a placeholder, a stand-in," she whispered, her voice raw with insecurity. "Is that truly how you see it?" Celeste's response was immediate and soothing. "No, dear. Damien's actions speak of someone who sees you as special. If he chose to kiss you, it is because you possess a beauty that is uniquely yours. Don't let the shadow of my past or his former affection cloud your worth. He may have loved someone else once, but that was then. Our lives are moving forward, and there is room for you to grow into the love that awaits you." Her words, imbued with gentle wisdom, left Serena pondering the complexity of their tangled emotions. As the afternoon waned into a hazy evening, the time at Julian and Celeste's estate drew to a close. The warmth of the gathering could not completely dispel the chill of uncertainty that clung to her. In the quiet ride back in the car, the echoes of Celeste's reassuring voice mingled with Damien's earlier parting words. Serena's thoughts churned in a tumult of longing and despair. She yearned to ask Damien the unanswerable questions that gnawed at her soul, yet found herself lacking the courage to confront him directly. "Damien, you've been staring at me for a while now," he observed suddenly, his tone casual as if nothing were amiss. His eyes, however, betrayed a spark of mischief as he teased. "Were you admiring how lucky you are to have such a handsome husband?" Serena forced a smile that did little to mask the hurt in her heart. "Yes, you are handsome," she muttered under her breath, her voice barely audible, "but you don't love me. Not in the way I need you to." The admission slipped out before she could fully consider the consequences, and the silence that followed was heavy with unspoken pain. Her inner turmoil was met with a curt, almost dismissive reply from Damien. "Okay, good," he answered coolly, his tone betraying little of the inner conflict she sensed beneath his words. The ride concluded with Damien opening the car door for her, his actions customary yet imbued with a strange formality that left her cold. "Serena," he called after her as she began to walk away. "I'm not going inside yet. I have other matters to attend to, and I might be gone for a while. Don't wait up for me." His voice, though steady, left no room for further discussion, and Serena could only reply in a flat tone. "Fine." A moment later, Damien called her back once more. "Serena, wait, did you forget something?" he asked, and she quickly checked her belongings before replying. "I think I have everything." His next words, however, caught her off guard. "You forgot your eyeglasses," he stated matter-of-factly. With a soft laugh, Serena fished them out of her bag and extended them to him, yet Damien's response was enigmatic. He did not take them, instead looking at her with a mischievous glint. "That's not what I need," he said lightly. "What I need is a little kiss, a simple, heartfelt kiss." For a brief moment, time seemed to slow as Serena's heart danced in response to his request. The innocence of his words, laced with a playful sincerity, brought forth a smile from her, despite the storm of doubts swirling in her mind. "A kiss?" she repeated, her voice wavering between disbelief and hope. "Yes, a kiss," Damien confirmed, his tone almost childlike in its earnestness. "A husband always deserves a kiss from his wife when parting or returning home. Come on now, give me your sweetest kiss, Serena." He stepped closer, his hand gently pulling her toward him, his eyes locked on hers with a vulnerability that belied his usual reserve. Serena's pulse quickened as she hesitated only momentarily before closing the distance. "Could you, perhaps, close your eyes first?" she asked shyly, her voice a soft murmur against the backdrop of their quiet world. Damien obliged without hesitation, his eyes closing as he waited expectantly for the touch of her lips. Their kiss began as a tender peck, but soon deepened into something more profound, a melding of lips that conveyed both the sweetness of newfound intimacy and the lingering bitterness of unspoken questions. As Damien's hands roamed gently, cupping her waist in an almost protective gesture, he murmured, "These are the sweetest lips I have ever tasted." His words, filled with a warmth that seemed to momentarily eclipse all the pain of their past, filled Serena with an elation so intense that for a fleeting moment, all her doubts were swept away. Yet, as quickly as the moment arrived, a wave of melancholy swept over her. "I never thought a simple kiss could make me feel so alive," she mused silently, her mind awash with conflicting emotions. But what does it truly mean? Is this love, or merely a comforting gesture born of duty? As the car drew closer to their home, Damien's playful teasing resumed. "You have a beautiful butt too, honey," he remarked as he prepared to step out of his car. Just before departing, however, he turned back for one last kiss, a brief, lingering peck on her forehead that felt like both a promise and a farewell. "I'm getting hooked on these lips," he joked softly, his eyes sparkling with a mix of affection and mischief, before he drove off, leaving Serena standing in a daze. Back at the house, a cascade of emotions overwhelmed her. The memory of Damien's kiss was a bittersweet salve on her aching heart, yet as she collapsed onto the sofa, a sudden pang of uncertainty struck her. "Why am I so happy over a simple kiss?" she wondered aloud, her voice trembling with self-doubt. "Do I truly believe that his affection is real, or am I merely clinging to a hope that may never be fulfilled?" The questions gnawed at her as she sat there, lost in thought. Later that night, as the darkness deepened and the quiet of the house enveloped her, Serena resolved to do something, anything that might capture Damien's undivided attention. Determined to be seen not as a shadow or a mere afterthought, she carefully chose her most alluring nightgown, a garment that revealed just enough of her graceful form to suggest the promise of hidden beauty. Standing before her mirror, she scrutinized her reflection, summoning every ounce of courage to present herself as the wife she desperately wished to be seen as. A beautiful, confident woman, worthy of genuine love. With trembling fingers, she adjusted the delicate fabric, ensuring that her bare legs and subtly exposed back would catch Damien's eye the moment he returned. Yet, as the minutes ticked by with no sign of his arrival, a mix of anticipation and anxiety churned within her. Finally, she rose to peek through the window, her heart pounding in her ears until she saw the familiar glint of Damien's car entering through the gate. Quickly, she retreated back into the bedroom, deliberately adjusting her nightgown to enhance its allure before settling once more onto the bed. The sound of footsteps soon signaled his return, and as the door opened, Damien stepped into the room. The sight that greeted him, a vision of pale, slender legs and an almost ethereal stillness, moved him momentarily. He approached quietly, draping a soft blanket over her exposed skin with tender care. Then, without a word, he removed his clothes and made his way to the shower. Serena, feigning slumber, kept one eye slightly open to observe him, her mind swirling with questions and hopes. Does he not feel the temptation? She wondered silently. When Damien finished his shower, dried his hair meticulously, and slipped back into bed beside her, he wrapped his arms around her in a gentle embrace. For a fleeting moment, she felt nothing, an emptiness that chilled her despite the warmth of his body. As she stole a glance, she saw him reach for his favorite book, a constant companion that now seemed to symbolize a barrier between them. "Seriously," she muttered under her breath, "is that book more important than me?" Her quiet complaint did not go unnoticed. Damien turned his head and, with a knowing smile, chided softly, "Serena, I know you're awake. Stop pretending you're in such a deep sleep." Caught off guard, she quickly shut her eyes, the blush of embarrassment coloring her cheeks. Unable to contain his curiosity any longer, Damien set his book aside and proposed. "Serena, can we have a serious talk?" His tone was gentle yet insistent, and though her heart fluttered with apprehension, she nodded in agreement. Gripping the hem of her nightgown for a moment of reassurance, she asked softly, "Why do you kiss me so tenderly? As if I'm the only one who matters, when I know that you do not truly love me." Damien's eyes darkened slightly with pain as he searched for the words to explain. "Serena," he began, his voice laced with a hint of sorrow, "it isn't that I don't care about you. I do care, in my own way. But there are things in my heart that I have yet to let go of, remnants of a past that I cannot fully erase. One day, perhaps, I will be able to love you the way you deserve, but right now, I am still caught between what was and what might be." His admission was both a confession and a plea for understanding, a bittersweet truth that neither could easily change. As the night stretched on, the conversation drifted into a quiet silence, punctuated only by the soft rustling of the bedsheets. Serena's heart ached with longing and uncertainty, while Damien's guarded expression hinted at unspoken regrets. In that intimate darkness, as they lay side by side yet worlds apart, Serena found herself whispering, "One day, will you be able to truly love me?" The question hung in the air, a fragile hope in a night filled with contradictions. Their dialogue, marked by moments of vulnerability and guarded silence, left Serena with more questions than answers. Yet even as the first light of dawn crept through the window, their conversation remained unresolved, a testament to the complexities of a love that was still finding its way. In the quiet aftermath of their midnight confessions, both were left to wonder if, someday, the gap between duty and genuine affection might finally be bridged. In the fading light of a turbulent evening, emotions swirled like the colors of a storm-tossed sky. Damien's tender whisper lingered in the air as he spoke. "I know what you're thinking. I saw how you looked at Celeste. There's truly nothing that can compare." His voice was soft yet insistent, a murmur of reassurance amid a tumult of doubts. In that moment, Serena felt a fleeting warmth, an ember of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, the affection he bestowed upon her was genuine. Yet the uncertainty in her heart remained, like a fragile crystal, trembling under the weight of unspoken questions. Damien's expression shifted, his eyes darkening with a complex mix of resolve and distraction. "Relax," he urged gently, leaning in to press a tender kiss on her lips. "I must attend to Julian now, so please, stay here with Celeste, okay?" His words carried the practical cadence of responsibility, leaving Serena to wonder. Was that kiss meant solely for her, a whisper of intimacy in a cold arrangement? Or was it a symbolic gesture meant to placate Celeste, an effort to show that his heart, though divided, had room for both past and present? The questions churned silently within her as she watched him turn away. Left with these conflicting emotions, Serena's thoughts were soon interrupted by Celeste's gentle voice. "Serena, right?" Celeste inquired, her tone soft yet laced with concern as she reached out to capture Serena's attention. "Oh yes, Serena," Celeste confirmed with a tender smile, though her eyes held a quiet sadness. "You don't look so good." Her words, simple and sincere, struck a chord deep within Serena. "Are you okay?" Celeste asked, her voice imbued with genuine care. In that moment, Serena's guarded emotions began to unravel, and she found herself confessing in a tremulous whisper, "I really don't feel as radiant as you do, Celeste, and I see now why Damien seems so distant, so cold." A bitter thought flitted through her mind, an unbidden, harsh reflection of her own self-doubt. "Perhaps it's because I'm impossible to surpass," she thought. Realizing too late that she had spoken her inner criticism aloud, she hurried to retract her words, apologizing. "I'm sorry, Celeste, please, forget what I just said." But Celeste, graceful as ever, offered a calm invitation instead. "You seem to have more on your mind, Serena. If there's something you wish to say, go ahead." Drawing a shaky breath, Serena's voice wavered as she admitted, "How can I ever be like you, Celeste? I want Damien to love me the way you deserve to be loved. We're married, yet I feel as though I'm just a ghost in our home, present but invisible. I wonder if there's any space in his heart left for me, or if I am merely filling a role that was dictated by circumstance." Her confession, steeped in sorrow and longing, left the space between them charged with a mix of vulnerability and raw honesty. Celeste smiled gently, her response soothing the turbulent emotions stirring within Serena. "You're overthinking everything, my dear. I am who I am, and I belong with Julian, because that's where my heart lies. You, however, must realize that Damien's affection for you is real, even if it seems sporadic. When he kissed you, it wasn't a substitute for someone else. It was a reminder that you are his wife, and that moment was meant to show you that you are cherished." Yet, even as Celeste spoke these words, a cold doubt gnawed at Serena. "But it feels as if I'm merely a placeholder, a substitute," she murmured, the insecurity in her tone palpable. "Am I just here to fill a void until he can move on?" Celeste's eyes softened with understanding and she pressed, "Don't let comparisons cloud your heart, Serena. Every person is unique. You must find the strength within yourself, even if it means facing the harsh truth of our situation." The hours passed, and soon the time at Julian and Celeste's estate dwindled. In the car ride back, the echoes of Celeste's comforting words mingled with Damien's earlier parting sentiments, leaving Serena in a state of restless contemplation. She longed to ask Damien about the truth of his feelings, to pierce through the layers of his reserved demeanor. Yet the courage to voice her innermost doubts eluded her, leaving her trapped in a silent quandary. At one point during the ride, Damien broke the heavy silence, remarking, "Serena, you've been staring at me for a while now. Do you have something you wish to ask?" His tone was teasing, yet it carried an undercurrent of genuine curiosity. Were you admiring how lucky you are to have such a handsome husband? He added, half-jokingly. Serena forced a smile, though it was tinted with a deep, unspoken hurt. Yes, you're handsome, she replied quietly. But sometimes I wonder, do you even love me? The words tumbled out before she could fully grasp their weight, leaving the car filled with an awkward, painful stillness. Damien's reply was cool and detached. Okay, good, as if dismissing the concern as trivial. When the ride ended and Damien stepped out of the car to close the door, he called after her, "Serena, I'm not going inside yet. I have some matters to attend to and I might be gone for a while. Don't wait up for me." His tone was final, leaving no room for further dialogue, and Serena could only mutter a flat, "Fine," in return. Moments later, as she prepared to leave the car, Damien's voice called out again, "Did you forget something?" Confused, Serena quickly checked her bag and replied, "I think I have everything." But then his tone shifted as he said, "You forgot your eyeglasses." With a soft laugh, she retrieved them from her bag and offered them to him. Yet instead of taking them, Damien's eyes sparkled with mischief as he said, "That's not what I need. I need a little kiss, a sweet kiss from my wife." For an instant, Serena's heart fluttered with a mix of surprise and delight. Could it be that, amidst all the uncertainties and cold gestures, Damien still yearned for a touch of intimacy? His earnest request, imbued with the simplicity of a child asking for a cherished treat, sparked a small, hopeful smile on her face. "A kiss?" she echoed softly, her voice wavering between disbelief and anticipation. "Yes, a kiss," Damien confirmed with gentle insistence. "A husband deserves a kiss from his wife when he leaves or returns. Come on, give me your sweetest kiss, Serena." He stepped closer, his hand gently pulling her toward him, and she hesitated just a moment before closing the distance. "Could you maybe close your eyes first?" she asked timidly, her tone laced with vulnerability. Damien complied without a word, and as their lips met, the kiss began as a tender peck before deepening into a cascade of emotions, warm, passionate, and bittersweet. In that embrace, his hands roamed gently, caressing her waist, as if trying to imprint the memory of her softness onto his heart. "These are the sweetest lips I've ever tasted," he murmured, his voice filled with wonder and longing. The kiss, so simple yet profound, sent ripples of joy and confusion through Serena. Her mind raced with conflicting emotions, elation at the touch of his lips, but also a gnawing uncertainty about what it all meant. A thrill of hope stirred in her chest. Maybe, just maybe, he could love her too. But just as quickly, doubt crept in. Did his heart truly have space for her? Or was she only a shadow chasing someone else's ghost? Her pent-up questions spilled out in a rush as she confronted him with a trembling honesty. Damien's eyes darkened with a mixture of regret and exasperation. "Serena, what are you talking about?" "You know exactly what I mean," he replied, his tone firm, yet laced with a sadness that spoke of battles fought within. "It feels as if you're forcing yourself to be nice to me because of our situation. As if I'm merely filling a role. I see you practically throwing yourself at me, yet all I can think about is my ex. About the past that still haunts me. Sometimes my touch is warm and my kisses burn with an intensity, but then the way I look at you, it can seem so cold, so empty, lacking the love or desire you deserve." Serena's heart clenched at his words. "You don't even seem attracted to me," she whispered, her voice trembling with hurt. "I tried dressing provocatively," she added, gesturing towards her revealing nightgown. "But it's like nothing changes." Damien's response came with a mix of astonishment and playful teasing. "So, you dressed like that to seduce me?" he asked, his tone both amused and incredulous. His laughter stung, and Serena's cheeks burned with humiliation. "Go on, laugh if you must," she challenged, her voice a blend of anger and sorrow. "I know I look ridiculous to you. Maybe I'm pitiful. Why drag on this marriage if we can simply separate?" Before she could finish, Damien's grip tightened, pulling her back onto the mattress with such force that time seemed to freeze. Their eyes locked for a heartbeat, and in that suspended moment, Serena heard the rapid beating of his heart. "Damien, let me go, please," she choked out, pushing against his chest, her voice cracking under the weight of her pain. His arms didn't loosen. "No," he whispered, forehead pressed to hers. "You can run, scream, curse me, but I won't let you go. Not when I finally realize what losing you would mean. Then what's the point of our marriage if you don't truly love me, she cried out, the pain of her loneliness overwhelming her. I love you, Damien declared suddenly, his words echoing in the quiet room, causing her to raise an incredulous eyebrow. You love me? That's not true, she countered, her voice sharp with disbelief. If you're worried about what your mum might say, I'll deal with her, just let me go. But his arms only tightened around her waist, holding her close. Damien, please, let me go, I love you, believe me, she implored, her voice breaking. His expression grew earnest, and though his tone was soft, it carried the weight of unspoken truths. Serena, don't lie to yourself. I love you, he insisted, but she turned away, her eyes glistening with tears. You say you love me, but you haven't been intimate since our wedding night. You only kiss me because we're husband and wife, isn't that right? Her accusation hung in the air, sharp and desperate. Damien's response was gentle, yet pained. So, you want to be touched? He asked softly, and Serena's cheeks flushed with heat. She wished she could retract the words that tumbled out, but it was too late. I don't mean it that way, I just want your attention, I want to feel that there's hope. Hope that you could love me, but sometimes... You won't even look at me, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. Serena, listen, Damien said, cupping her face tenderly in his hands. I'm sorry if you feel unloved, but just because I'm not constantly intimate with you doesn't mean I don't care. The truth is, I try not to look at you too much because if I do, I'm tempted beyond measure. When we first were together, you were so desperate to be free that our night together was born out of that need, not out of love. I promised myself I'd hold back until I was sure you wanted me for who I truly am. His voice faltered slightly as he continued. I don't want our union to be a duty. I want us to be together when we are certain of each other's feelings. Silence fell between them, heavy and unresolved, until Serena's voice broke through the quiet. One day, will you really love me? She asked, her tone a fragile plea. Damien's eyes softened and he whispered, Serena, I have loved you since the moment I first met you. Even back when you were just the mysterious woman from that one night that fate arranged for us. I kept searching for you, and I'm grateful that destiny brought us together despite everything. I love you, Serena. His confession was sealed with a gentle kiss on her lips, and for a long moment the room was filled only with the sound of their mingled breaths. I love you too, Damien, she murmured, her voice filled with a tentative hope. Slowly their kisses deepened, passion kindled by the raw honesty of their words. Damien's hands caressed her with newfound tenderness, and as the layers of their guarded emotions melted away, they lost themselves in each other's warmth. Clothes were shed, inhibitions vanished. In that sacred intimacy, they rediscovered each other, finding solace and desire in a union that had once seemed dictated only by duty. Later, as the night yielded to the soft glow of dawn, Damien whispered, Serena, I'm so happy, so incredibly happy, that I get to live this life with you. His words, filled with genuine affection, made her heart swell with a love that had been hidden beneath layers of sorrow. I feel the same way, Damien. I'm so glad you're my husband, she replied, her voice soft and sincere. In time, the couple's fragile love blossomed into a truly happy marriage, a union that transcended the confines of arrangements and duty. They even celebrated a second wedding, a ceremony born not of parental pressure, but of a mutual, genuine desire to be together. Evelyn and Vivienne rejoiced, witnessing the transformation of their children's lives into something beautiful and full of promise. One crisp morning, while Serena was taking a shower in their newly renamed residence, now called Silverwood Manor, a symbol of new beginnings, she discovered a positive pregnancy test clutched in her hand. Thrilled and nervous, she emerged from the bathroom and sought out Damien. Honey, she began hesitantly. You look like... Damien's concern grew as he noticed her serious expression. Sensing her urgency, she handed him the test. What does this mean? What are these two red lines? He asked in bewilderment, half expecting it to be a thermometer. After a pause, Serena declared, I'm pregnant, Damien. For several agonizing seconds, silence enveloped the room as Damien processed the life-changing news. Then, his face transformed into an expression of pure joy. Pregnant? You're pregnant? "Oh my God, Serena, I love you so much," he exclaimed, leaping from the bed and scooping her into his arms. His laughter rang out, and he spun her around in a joyous dance. "I love you, I love you, I love you." And, "I love you even more now," he shouted exuberantly, tears of happiness glistening in his eyes as he called out to share the wonderful news with Julian and Celeste. In the days that followed, both families celebrated the promise of new life, and the once fractured union of Damien and Serena transformed into a partnership built on genuine love and hope. Their hearts, once encumbered by doubt and miscommunication, now beat in harmonious unison. Every challenge they had faced had led them to this moment of pure, unadulterated happiness, a reminder that every pain endured can eventually yield immeasurable reward. From that day forward, their life together was filled with warmth, laughter, and the gentle reassurance of a love that had found its true meaning. The trials of their past were gradually replaced by the promise of tomorrow, and in the tender glow of a shared sunrise, Serena and Damien embraced the future as a truly happy married couple, one whose happiness was self-made, cherished, and deeply deserved. And that was the story of Serena and Damien. A marriage arranged by duty, yet transformed by patience, vulnerability, and a love neither of them saw coming. Through heartbreak, misunderstanding, and the lingering shadows of the past, they chose to believe in something more. In each other. In a future they could build from the ashes of expectation. What do you think about their journey? If you were Serena, could you forgive someone who once kept their heart hidden? Or do you believe love should only begin when both hearts are fully open from the start? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd truly love to hear what you would do in her place. The message I want to leave you with today is this. Sometimes, the person meant for you doesn't arrive in the way you expected. They show up broken, hesitant, and healing. But if you're patient enough to see past the scars, you might find a love worth everything. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a reminder that love, real love, takes time. See you in the next story.